parallel worlds, or memories of past life, you know. See. Would help if you talk to Katsumi too. Some things you can't say to a doctor, but that you'll tell your friends. Sure, I'll ask her, I guess. So, Lintalho, that aside, I have a question for you. Leskinen was looking over my shoulder. I got a sense of this at the Christmas party, but your girlfriends really are cute, aren't they? Huh? Turned around and saw that Mayuri, Kaede, and Yuki had all stood from the sofa and were looking at me. I saw Dr. Leskinen was looking at them. They waved. Are any of those girls involved with you right now? Yuki, Kaede, Mayuri, Luka, or perhaps Katsumi? What? These words were so surprising I couldn't think of anything to say. Maho would often call this middle-aged man a mischievous boy. It was exactly the look he had in his face. No, I won't force you to tell me. I don't want to pry into your private life. But, well, I hope you have something to tell my favorite student. Huh? Leskinen turned to walk away before I could figure out what he meant. Alright, Lintalho, I've got to go to the doctor and talk to the doctor a little more. I'll be going. I'd love to go around to all those girls and give them a hug too, but I'll save that for next time. Tell them I said hello. Oh, sure. Yuri and the others came over to me as I watched him go. Is that Dr. Leskinen? Yeah, I knew I'd seen him somewhere before. I thought he'd come back to America. Oh, could he? There's no way I could tell the girls what Dr. Leskinen and I were just talking about. After Fubuki's exam was over, we went to her room and listened to her complain, and then the visit was over. Just like Dr. Leskinen had said, she looked just fine. She told us she was ready to leave the hospital, jog all the way. Yuri and others were relieved, but I felt worried. Did Dr. Leskinen about reading Steiner after all? How would I explain it? It might be a better idea to talk to Maho and have her explain it to him. Wouldn't come to an answer right away. Said goodbye to Kaede and Yuki at one of the stations on the way back. We got to Ikebukuro. I remembered to take out my phone and open the web browser. Went to Ad Channel, eager to see if she'd responded to the bait I'd spread this afternoon. My hand over my mouth to stifle the noise. Huh? Mayuri had been standing next to me. She was leaning over on my screen. I fished her up all right. It was Fitzgerald and Lawrence who had based their hypothesis off that experiment. Einstein himself had said it had nothing to do with his theories. You don't even know that? How ignorant are you? I didn't think it would go this well. The timestamp was just 30 minutes ago. Decided to respond immediately using the same name. The Larry's neighbor. You're the ignorant one. In a letter written before his death, Einstein said that he was aware of Michelson and... I posted, and then reloaded the thread. There's already a response from her. Ooh. Einstein was aware of Michelson and Morley's experiments. I know that. Duh. All he said was that he knew of the experiment, obviously. Einstein used the Fizero experiment, and the time lag between the posts was just 21 seconds. It was kind of irritating to have her come after me so hard, as if she was insulting me as a person. Well, I was the one who had deliberately written in mistakes. I should have expected it. Stellar operation to come up with the theory of relativity. Just can't let anyone else win, can you? So you haven't changed a bit, WWW. Are you Mozart? The Red's other residents were probably confused, everyone except for her. Yuri had been watching our exchange and looked at me confused. Now this Kuri Gohan and Kamehameha person? Yeah, they're someone I've known for a long time, I think. Now then, how would she reply to the nickname? The Larry's neighbor. post I just wrote. I was curious. The answer wasn't an immediate response like before. The train reached Ikebukuro Station. Okarin, we're here! The train slid into the station and stopped. Reloaded the thread one more time before the doors opened. It was a very short response from Kurigohan and Kamehameha. Who are you? There'd be no doubt now. Kurigohan and Kamehameha was Kurisu. It's a very hot day in 1988 when Suzuha said goodbye to Kakarishina. Down to get food and water from a local store. When she'd come back and open the hatch, Kakari was inside screaming. Come on, how does this stupid thing work? He looked inside and saw that Kakari was slamming her tiny hands down on the control console. What are you doing? Huh? She shrank back when she saw Suzuha. I'm not. This isn't what it looks like. Answer me. But... I woke up and you were gone and it was dark and the lights wouldn't turn on and it's so cramped and scary in here. I tried to open the door. And then I was fiddling with it. This happened. This should be the same scene as the previous one. Ah. Alright, let's find out. Kaguri started to cry. Sorry, big sis Suzuha. I'm sorry, but I was really scared. I see. Suzuha relaxed her guard. Kaguri had PTSD from her time as a war orphan. She hadn't fully recovered yet. I had once told her that she got very frightened in dark and cramped places. It makes sense if waking up in the dark caused a panic attack. The time machine could only function with Suzuha's biometric authorization. For some reason it does not skip. Very strange. Oh, I haven't skipped it. I'm so dumb. Now I'll just read it. For continuity's sake. Someone of Kaguri's size wouldn't be able to break the console either. Passed out from the shock of time travel. I wanted to let you get some rest, I'm sorry. Things are just important. Gotta read them. Suzuha grabbed one of Kaguri's tiny hands to help her up, and led her outside the machine. Wow, it's so hot. Well, I had the same thing happen when I read the visual novel. We gotta stay consistent. Law of averages, whatnot. Wow, it's so hot. Kaguri, promise me you won't touch the switches on the control console no matter what, okay? Okay. Gonna get started. You go and rest. Have some food and water if you want. We go. She gonna go postal? Suzuha had handed Kaguri provisions she'd brought, then went inside and poked her head in the cargo space under the control console. She connected the IBN 5100 she'd stored there to a portable terminal she'd brought from the future. By all appearances, it was an early 2000 cell phone, but inside it was a miniaturized quantum computer from the year 2036. Of course, future Daro had made it himself. She booted up the IBM 5100, rows of numbers started to appear on the screen. What are you doing? Kaguri was looking in from outside the machine. Did you study the year 2000 problem? I studied it a little at the orphanage. In the end, nothing happened, right? What everybody thinks. Wasn't made public, but at the time, a lot of places and a lot of countries had serious problems because of it. Really? The issue was this computer, the IBM 5100. Got an old programming language on it. The engineers weren't able to fix the program. In fact, they didn't even know that learn to speak. They didn't even know that an important program existed that was written in this language. The race to develop the time machine was the beginning of the Third World War, but the chance that something had happened during the year 2000 problems, the divisions that resulted from that, were a deeper cause. Didn't expect a 10-year-old like Kaguri to understand this. She didn't feel like taking the time to explain. Year 2000 is a special year, you see. And all the world lines temporarily converge here. It means that it's possible the year 2000 problem has a huge effect on all the world lines. The world line in the gap that we're trying to reach, Steins Gate, is no exception. They look down at the terminal connected to the IBN 5100. But this is a patch program to keep the year 2000 problem from ever happening? Right now, the terminal was converting the patch into the language used by the IBN 5100. The next step is to spread this program all around the world in the form of a virus. The year 2000 problems that this era's engineers missed would completely disappear. The word connect appeared in the terminal subscreen. Okay, it's connected. You've been told that in Japan in this era, ADSL was still in the test phase. Most normal users connected to the internet by low-speed dial-up using ISDN. Major cities like Akihabara, universities, labs, and some big computer companies were starting to use fiber optic broadband. Some of them were even using wireless LANs. Suzuha cracked her way into one of those. Dad had laughed when he said that with 2036 technology, cracking late 20th century network security was a joke. He'd been right. But if you change the future, won't that change the world we were in? Surprisingly, Kaguri had gotten the gist of what Suzuha had just told her. That's right. I refuse to let that world exist any longer, so I've come here to reach Steins Gate. Uh-oh. Deja vu. Suddenly, the uneasy look on Kaguri's face vanished, as if her soul had left its body. Suddenly, her face was expressionless. Her eyes were wide. Voice? I can hear God's voice. Kaguri, you can't do that. It's not right. You can't do that, Big Sis Suzuha. You can't. Huh? Kaguri was acting strangely. Suspiciously, Suzuha reached her hand out towards her. But she slipped past Suzuha's hand. Quicker than any child should be able to move, she slammed her shoulders straight into Suzuha's body. Suzuha was caught completely off guard. That's how fast it was. Kaguri's shoulder hit her in the solar plexus. She bent over and collapsed into the seat. Kaguri tore the terminal out of Suzuha's hands. The cables connecting it to the IBN 5100 were ripped out. Errors displayed on both screens. What are you doing? Kaguri didn't answer the question. Instead, she grabbed the backpack that Suzuha had placed on the seat and spilled its contents into the floor. There were MREs, spare parts, clothes, semi-automatic pistol. Suzuha couldn't believe it. Kaguri was going to try and pick it up. Stop it! She forced herself to ignore the pain as she jumped on Kaguri's body. But another unbelievably powerful body slam knocked her back. Something cold was pushed right up against her brow. Don't move. Kaguri's tiny hands weren't shaking at all as they clutched the semi-automatic pistol. In the space of an instant, the safety on the gun had flipped off. That's when Suzuha realized that this wasn't just a temper tantrum. Suzuha was the one who taught her how to use a gun. Why she knew that Kaguri was perfectly calm. Are you insane? Put the gun down, now! Stop doing this! You're the one who needs to stop! What? You can't change the world. You're not making sense! There was no hesitation in her eyes. Instead, Suzuha saw only resolve. Want the war to happen then? I don't know anything about that. I just want to go back to my old world. That's never gonna happen. If we were to use the time machine to interfere with the past, the world lines changed. There's almost no chance we can go back. Shut up! Shut up! I'm gonna save Mommy! Can't erase this world. I won't let you! Kaguri turned the gun towards the IBN 5100. Stop! Before Suzuha could stop her, she yanked down on the trigger. Again and again. Stop it, Kaguri, please, stop! Then Kaguri jumped out of the time machine. Suzuha never saw her again. On every night that passed, she remembered Kaguri. Suzuha had spent some time looking for Kaguri when she'd first come to this era, but in the end, she had never found anything. But Shina Kaguri, who was now 22 years old, was here in Akihabara. Suzuha was sure of it. Oh, Mahotan, hey, hey! Taru was sitting at the computer next to Suzuha, talking into his monitor. The monitor was displaying a video chat screen. On the screen was a young girl dressed in a slovenly fashion. No, a proper, fully grown lady. Priceless. Morning. It's 8:30 p.m. at the Future Gadget Lab in Akihabara. Meanwhile, Victor Condrey was an hour off usual due to daylight savings time, and it was 7:30 a.m. Maho, you okay? It's early. She probably just got up. Maho was a mess. Her hair was never combed right. Her eyes were bloodshot. Her gaze was wandering. God, that's exactly how I look. Spots under her eyes were too dark for the little bit of makeup she'd applied to cover them up. Her cheeks were sunken, which made her look even tinier than usual. On top of all that, her skin was terribly pale. She looked like something out of a zombie movie. Anemic Mahotan for the win. Normally, she would have gotten upset at Taru's joke. Either she'd gotten used to it, or simply given up, because she said nothing. How are things going there? Managed to rebuild it to how it was before Okurin took it apart. I think it does most of what it did before. Taru glanced towards the development room, past a curtain in the back of the lab. Right now he was working with Maho to recreate what Okabe called the Time Leap Machine. Not going well? Yeah, it's just not stable. It ends up being a normal microwave. See... I wonder what's wrong with it. If we could ask Okurin, I'm sure things would be different. We can't do that. He'd get really mad if he even knew we were working on this. He's afraid. He's afraid of the power of the world line convergence. Won't be easy to convince him. In fact, it had almost been a year since she'd first tried and failed. There was a moment of silence. Wait, Mahotan, are you asleep? Adorable. Maho's whole body jerked. She almost fell out of her chair. That was close. I almost went back to bed before I left for work. You know you're working too hard. If you get sick, it'll only slow us down, you know. I'm fine. Actually, after all this work, it's still not as good as the real genius. I don't think so, you know. I think you're a genius. I don't need you to make me feel better. I got all these hints about the time leap machine that Okabe told me about. I still can't find the answer. She managed to compress all that memory data and send it to the past. Urso managed to do it, but Maho seemed upset. It was obvious even through the monitor. Oh, I'm sorry. This isn't the time to complain, is it? Is there anything else to report for today? If not, I'm gonna head to work. One more thing. Suzuha looked at Itaru. But what you'd asked me to look into. Did you find something? Nothing clear yet. I see. Done some breaking and entering into a bunch of networks, taking things about as far as it's safe to do so. Not blaming you. Tell me what you know. No, if you want to start screaming insults, I wouldn't mind that at all. Dad? Hurry, I'm running out of time. Sure. Yataro opened a different window on the monitor. He displayed one of the text files in it. It was a record of the information Yataro and Suso had collected. First, the incident where you were attacked in the hotel basement. Cops say it was some kind of crazy cultist on a drug trip. That's definitely a lie. Lie? Just like the police announcement said, he was an assistant professor at a college. And that's fine, but I can't find anything linking him to a cult at all. I tried accessing public safety secret data file of the cult too, so I'm certain of it. Well, they're lying. You look at channel, you'll sometimes see people who look like they're from the cult claiming that they're innocent and the whole thing's a conspiracy. Whenever that happens, the haters show up instantly, and they beat the daylights out of the guy. The haters always have this really well-made fake evidence, digitally altered images and stuff. There's no way that's a coincidence. Really? I don't know a lot about this ad channel thing. Most of the big sites have agents on them, including ad channel. They get paid like it's a business, so they do it 24 hours a day from morning till night. Information control. Propaganda. Politicians and bureaucrats use them to influence public opinion on the net. There are even companies that specialize in this sort of thing. See, I can understand that. America has the same thing. These agents can change their IP, but they can't hide from me. I did some research. There's an insane amount of agents assigned to that case. It's to the point where I have no idea where the money to pay them is coming from. Say, what about the attack on your workplace, Dad? Same deal. The police had called it a fight between foreign mafias trying to expand their territory in Japan. The media never questioned the story at all. Even people on the boards at the famously skeptical ad channel believed everything they were told. Of course, there was no mention whatsoever of Russia or CERN. So I decided to post a new thread where I pretended to be a witness, said I saw some Russian special forces. Wow, was I amazed. Talk about some serious try-hard trolling. I got pissed enough that I almost doxed the agent's real name, his company name, and everything else. Evidently, he'd been really irritated. It was rare for Ataru to get so angry. Maybe it wasn't she decided. In other words, pressure came down from somewhere to shut down discussion. That's Japan for you, a real free country. America's no different, is it? Got that right. The two of them smiled at the joke. Anyway, so that's all I can do. Let's see. That's enough, thank you. Maho, do you think you can get permission from the lab to come to Japan? Well, I keep sending requests to go as Dr. Leskinen's assistant, but they keep turning them down. Dr. Leskinen's here now, right? Yeah, he's researching the new encephalitis. Since it had nothing to do with the artificial intelligence, it seemed Maho wouldn't be allowed to go along. That's fine. If they keep turning me down, I've got ideas of my own. What are you gonna do? Don't tell me you're gonna defy your superior officer's orders to drop the case, and then you'll go blah 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 blah. Learn to speak, and then you'll get caught by the bad guys. I've seen that hentai before. God. Hey, Maho-say, kill me in as frustrated a voice as possible. Dad. Suzuha's hand went for her back pocket. Sorry. Ataru's shoulders slumped as he apologized. Lately, she'd been able to put a stop to Ataru's terrible jokes just by doing that. She wasn't sure if it was a good thing or a bad thing that she knew exactly how to handle him. Well, anyway, I should be there before too long. Okay, tell us when you've got a date. Oh, and Maho, if you're gonna work, you should take another look in the mirror first. Before the end of the call, Suzuha decided to warn her. Huh? Maho stood up and walked towards the closet without turning off the camera. She vanished from view, but a moment later... Yeah! You must have seen how terrible she looked, because she let out a very unfeminine scream. He relaxed for a moment after turning off the video chat. Suzuha brought thought back to the time before she'd become a time traveler. She did this every time she got off video chat with Maho. Maho Yaho, someone who'd helped build a time machine, huh? After Maho had gone back to America that she'd volunteered to help Suzuha and Itaru with the time machine. That meant that when Itaru Hashida completed the time machine 25 years from now, Maho must have contributed in some way. What? I know I shouldn't say too much about the future. There was nobody by that name helping you, you know. Huh? Really? Which means she probably left the team at some point. I don't know whether it was of her own free will or due to some external factor. But if nothing else, I don't think she was part of the core team. See, she's pretty handy to have around though. I don't really want to say this, but there's a possibility she might be a spy. What? No way! Not Maho Town of all people. Sorry. Just want you to remember that it's a possibility. I told you the war of information that comes before the Third World War has already started. Either way, we can't let anybody find out the machine's secrets. Just make sure you're very careful about that. Yeah. How are you going to go to work on the time machine going... How are you going to work on the time machine going forward? I really need Okarin's help. That's the thing. I don't know if we can persuade Uncle Okarin. Might have to do it by force. Was it that tried that before and then it failed? Suzuha pursed her lips. Even with a gun in his face, Okabe Rintaro still wouldn't get in the time machine. To be honest, Suzuha was out of options. She stifled a sigh. It didn't do any good to let herself get down. Come to think of it, how were things with Mom? Huh? I'm more worried about that. Is everything okay? I'm still going to be born, right? Oh, well, is that more important than the time machine? Hey! Suzuha stormed over to Itaru. Can't screw this up, Dad! Yeah, Dad is gonna do his best, okay? All you ever do is talk. You even wasted those movie tickets we gave you, didn't you? I meant the pair of movie tickets that my Yuri and Ferris had conspired to give them at the Christmas party. That was because Okarin and Miss Fubuki collapsed, you know. We're so busy with hospital business and stuff that the movie left the theater. It's not like it's my fault. But I heard that when they tried to give you new tickets, you turned them down. Who told you that? Big Sis Mayu and Big Sis Rumi, obviously. Well, that's because, you know, it's not manly to make those two do all the work, is it? Did you go and do something yourself? This isn't gonna work. Maybe this was a more important problem than the time machine. Suzuha brought her hands up to her head. Listen, Dad, I'm not gonna be around to lecture you like this forever, okay? I'm leaving soon. Oh. Suddenly there was a sad look in Itaru's eyes. Don't make that face. I promised I'd stop worrying about it. For the past 6 months, Suzuha had been thinking about whether it was really right to erase this world. And in the end, it was none other than Itaru who pushed her to go ahead. I'm sorry. It couldn't bear to see her father so depressed, so she patted his broad back. Just sit there and be glum. Send Mom a message, see if she's free sometime. If she is, invite her to a movie. Ugh, that's way too sudden. I don't care if it's sudden or not. Do it anyway, okay? This is an order. An order? What's your answer? Sir, yes, sir. Satisfied, she headed off to take a shower. Oh, but before that, I'm gonna hit the convenience store. I actually haven't eaten yet. I'm going to be up all night again, so I want to get there before it gets too late. Still hunched over, he pointed towards the development room. He was pointing at the phone wave named subject to change, Unit 02. It was put together but still undergoing testing. Don't glare at me like that. I'll eat as healthy as I can, so please forgive me. Vanilla. Huh? I want ice cream when I'm done with my shower. Vanilla ice cream. Okay, I'll go buy you a lot of really top shelf stuff. Doesn't have to be a lot, just one thing is fine. Sir, yes sir. It was enough to cheer Daru up. He took his wallet and ran out of the lab. He's such a handful. She had just about taken off her jacket so she could take that shower, but... Suzuha! Itaru had come back into the lab. What is it? I found this on the stairs. Itaru showed her a keychain that he was holding. It was a round anime character whose color had faded to a smoky green. It was an Upa. You know who this is? Big Sis Mayu's probably. Leaned forward to take a closer look, and then felt like if she was experiencing deja vu. I've seen this Upa somewhere before. Seen it before? She couldn't really remember when, but her internal alarms are going off. This keychain was extremely important. Upas were common enough that you could find them anywhere. The plastic edges had worn down, the paint was faded and coming off in places. There was no dust, and there were no stains. Instead it shone brightly, as if its owner had put a lot of effort into taking good care of it. The chain was so old that part of it had snapped off. That was probably how it got dropped. Or was it? I've seen this before. Did Mayushi show it to you? I don't know. She stared at the green Upa in Nataru's hands, and then in her mind, she heard a young girl scream. This is Mommy's Upa keychain. I'm giving it to you. Take good care of it, okay? She gasped. A feeling of indescribable terror raced down her spine. This can't be Kaguri's? That was when she'd last seen it. August 13th, 2036. The day she'd gone into the time machine. That's when she'd seen this Upa. It was older and more worn now. The more she remembered that day, the more certain she became this was the Upa that Mayuri had given to Kaguri. Leaving Kaguri holding it, crying to herself many times before. Kaguri, you mean future Miss Mayu's daughter? Yeah. Did you find her? No, but she knows where I am. What do you mean? She's watching this lab. Satisfied, she headed off to take a shower. Ever since then, her careful efforts to defend the time machine had paid off. She hadn't seen any sign of Kaguri, but she'd never thought she'd be watching the lab. No, it would have been obvious if I'd given it any thought. She's trying to stop us from reaching Steins Gate. She doesn't want this world to end. Which means she's watching not just me, but you too? Me? Well, I don't think your life is in danger, probably. If you believe what we know about how world lines work, you live to at least 2036. She might come to interfere with your research, so we can't reach Steins Gate. A lot of bad things have been happening around Suzuha, Itaru, and Okabe Rentaro. There was some possibility that the final target was Itaru. From now on, just to be safe, lock the door whenever I'm not around. Oh, okay, got it. Even if Uncle Okering Mom or Big Sis Mayu are here, don't leave it open. It might not help much, but make sure you use the door chain too. You know, Okering and Mayushi are one thing, but if I did that when I was alone with Aminashi, don't you think that'd give her the wrong idea? It's true. That makes her not like me. My whole family could be in trouble. Suzuha groaned softly, unsure of what to do. If you'd only gotten to be her boyfriend sooner, there wouldn't be a problem. Wait, we're back to that? Just be careful, okay? Suzuha decided to keep the green Upa keychain. She softly ran her fingertips over it as she stared at it. Hey, Suzuha, Kakuri-tan's not related to Mayushi, but she's still her daughter, right? That's right. Would somebody else raised by Mayushi grow up to be the kind of person who'd assault someone? Just can't imagine it. From what you told me, I'd expect her to be a kind of easygoing and cute little girl. Wish that were what had happened. Yeah, I thought that's how she turned out too. But now she's probably... From what we'd seen at the radio building, she could tell Kaguri had definitely received professional combat training. It wasn't just the simple self-defense techniques that she'd learned from Suzuha when she was a child. As she'd grown up, she'd been taught the cold techniques of a killer. There was no way to know where she'd been, or what she's been doing, ever since she'd gone missing in 1998. But there was no doubt in Suzuha's mind that she was trying to ruin her plans. Suzuha sighed as she took her shower. Since it was summer, she set the water temperature low. It was barely any hotter than tap water. As long as the water was pouring down on her, she could feel like all the bad memories were being washed away. Slapped her cheeks with both hands and turned off the water. The small tiled room suddenly became quiet. In the silence, she vigorously toweled off her hair. The building was never intended for anyone to live in. Not alone was there very little room, there wasn't even a place to change. It was small, there were no windows, and the steam from the room built up, making it an unpleasant sauna in the summer. Supposedly, Itaru and Okabe would sit naked next to the fans to get away from the heat and moisture. Of course, it was only when the girls, as well as Zuka Ushirabara, wasn't around. Suzuha couldn't do that. There were those huge scars on her chest. If she was careless and Yuki saw them, she'd have a big problem. She always forced herself to change within this small space. The second she left the shower room, she realized something was wrong. The lights were off in the part behind the curtain where the lab room was. She was sure she had left all the lab lights on when she'd gone to take a shower. She didn't remember turning them off. Still completely naked, she flung open the curtain. She dropped to the floor, ready to move. She could tell by the light from the shower room that there was no one else there. She didn't hear any breathing. She didn't feel any other presence. Dad come back? And then when he'd left, he turned off the lights. No, that couldn't be right. She looked around the room and saw that things had been moved in a way that an amateur wouldn't be able to notice. Notara's computer desk, the sofa area, the bookshelves, even the mini kitchen. Someone had gone through them all. From the look of it, the same was probably true of the development room. Suzuha glanced over all the areas where she kept her guns. Closest was the sofa that she used as a bed. She wanted to have one easily available if she was attacked while she slept, so she had cut out the back of one of the sofa cushions and hidden a suppressed semi-automatic pistol in it. Just a .32 caliber for self-defense, so it wouldn't do much damage unless you had good aim. But it was small and relatively quiet, which made it the best choice for a place like this. Suzuha tensed all of her muscles, coiling like a spring, slowly moved towards the sofa without making a sound. As she did, she tried to notice any changes in the surrounding area. The small sound in the development room. It was a tiny, tiny creaking of the floor, to which you'd usually pay no mind. That was more than enough for Suzuha. In an instant, she moved from quiet to action. She cleared the distance in the sofa in a single moment and quickly drew her gun. She held it ready and slipped into a shadow of the refrigerator. From this position, she could barely see in the development room. The room became silent again. This time the intruder in the other room didn't try to hide their presence. Try anything and I'll shoot. Hands on your head. Come out slowly. Suzuha threatened the intruder in a low voice, but the intruder seemed completely unconcerned as they exposed themselves to Suzuha's gaze. You must be pretty hot wearing that in this weather. Why not at least take off your helmet? The intruder was wearing a motorcycle suit, just like before. Even the helmet was the same. The leather suit clung tight to their skin, revealing a voluptuous and perfectly proportioned body. It was clearly a woman. What you're looking for isn't there. It's in my pocket. Suzuha pointed toward the entrance of the shower room. The shirt she'd taken off was lying on the floor. The girl in the motorcycle suit turned her head, but because the face mask was down, Suzuha couldn't read her expression. You should know better than to drop that. It's something Mommy gave you. Right, Kagari? The second she spoke, Shina Kagari was the first to move. She drew a deglossed military knife that she must have been hiding behind her back and closed the gap between herself and Suzuha in an instant. She pointed the gun at her legs and pulled the trigger, carefully aiming away at her vitals. She heard the small pop of a suppressed .32 caliber and saw Kagari lose her balance and fall. Or she thought she did, but it was a feint. She'd only pretended to lose her balance. In fact, she changed directions and was heading for the shower room. It seemed her first goal was to get what she'd come for. Huh? After firing only one shot, Suzuha realized even a .32 caliber should have more recoil than this. He fired again, but Kagari didn't flinch even for a moment. Blank? How? At some point, all the bullets in Suzuha's gun had been swiped with blanks. An instant panic was all it took. Kagari reached up for the shirt on the floor in front of the shower room. No way. Suzuha gave up on firing and flung the gun at Kagari. There was a dull thud as the hard barrel slammed into her neck. Caught off balance, she staggered before she could grab the shirt. You could hear Kagari's voice for the first time from within the helmet. Suzuha jumped. She kicked off the balance Kagari as hard as she could with her toned, muscled legs. This was no time to hold back. Kagari went flying all the way to the edge of the room. It had to have broken a few ribs. Suzuha jumped towards her to continue her attack. With a terrifying speed, Kagari leapt off the ground and charged at Suzuha. This wasn't enough time to come to a full stop. A sharp blade swept by, mere centimeters from her exposed abdomen. If she'd pulled back even a few tenths of a second later, the knife would have fatally sliced open her gut. Bitch! The blood rushed to Suzuha's head. Kagari was serious. She was planning to kill her. There was no hesitation in her movements. Suzuha leaped back and searched for something she could use as a weapon. The other guns were probably no different. There was a good chance they'd all had their ammo swapped with blanks too. It was even possible that all her self-defense knives had been taken too. What's left? There were several knives carefully stored in the kitchen. Yuki had brought them over to use in teaching the other girls how to cook. Kagari had evidently noticed them as well. She was moving to keep Suzuha from reaching them. Huh? Looks like you had a lot of practice. It's hard to believe you're the same girl who spent all her time sobbing inside the time machine. I'm surprised. Suzuha kept her distance from Kagari as she slowly moved along the wall. Her competitive drive burned her brighter as she tried to come up with a way to overcome her disadvantage. Here, Kagari. This is what you're after, right? He picked up her shirt from in front of the shower room, took the green keychain out of its pockets. What's wrong? Come get it. Her fingers moved as if to crush it. She could see Kagari twitch for the first time. She could detect a hint of emotion beyond the helmet. And in an instant, she threw it at Kagari's stomach. The keychain flew in a low arc like she was tossing it to a friend. If something they loved was thrown like that, even the fiercest warrior would instinctively reach out both hands to grab it. Kagari was no exception. She carefully held her mother's memento in both her empty left and the right hand that still clutched the knife. Using the slow arc of the keychain as camouflage, Suzuha ran at her in a straight line. Her right fist connected hard with Kagari's stomach, and her left arm smashed Kagari's head to the side. Kagari's body fell to the ground, her right shoulder taking the brunt of the fall. Suzuha could hear the sound of her joint dislocating. The knife slipped from her grasp. Suzuha got behind her and mounted her, twisting her right arm mercilessly. At the same time, she slipped her own left arm around Kagari's neck and squeezed hard. Yiggity. You could hear something like a moan from Kagari's throat. Both hear and feel the bones in her arm and neck creaking. Stay put. I'm not going to kill you. Kagari picked up the knife on the floor with her left hand, once again tried to use it on Suzuha. Suzuha was forced to squeeze her arm and neck even harder. Stop it, Kagari. I understand how you feel now, but it's wrong. It's wrong. Kagari didn't stop. If anything, she tried even harder to pull Suzuha away. What kind of training did she get? Even in all the battles she'd been in, this much pressure on two different spots was enough to get even the toughest soldier to submit or fall unconscious. Terrified, Suzuha squeezed even harder. At this rate, she wouldn't simply knock her out. She really would kill Kagari. But if it stopped, Kagari would kill her. What should she do? Exist, Suzuha! It hurts! It hurts! And then she heard a sad, weak voice from inside the helmet. It startled her. And then she relaxed both her arms. That was just what Kagari had hoped for. The knife came very close to cutting Suzuha's left arm. When she let go to dodge it, Kagari shook her off and kicked her at the hips with both legs. Suzuha was slammed back hard into the computer desk. For a moment, she couldn't breathe. She fell to the floor and the printer monitor crashed mercilessly into her naked body. She forced herself to stand up, grasping hard as she did so. Kagari's breathing was heavy too. Her right arm was pointed in an impossible direction and hanging limp. She wouldn't be able to use it for a while, probably. Her left arm was still holding the knife. Learned some dirty tricks, haven't you? Suzuha glared at Kagari's face, that she could see what looked behind that helmet. Two of them fell silent as they tried to catch their breath. The tension in the air was so thick that it was difficult to move a muscle. Sweat rolled down her forehead and into her eyes. She didn't blink as she waited for Kagari to make her next move. It's the sound of the front door opening that broke their stalemate. Hey Suzuha, did I just hear a loud noise? Suzuha felt a chill run down her spine when she heard Ataru's voice. Huh? Why's it so dark? No, Dad, stay back! She yelled at the exact instant she turned on the lights. The sudden brightness was enough to make Suzuha flinch for an instant. Kagari was wearing a full-faced helmet, and that made all the difference. She leapt towards Itaru just a moment before Suzuha. Kagari's black knife went up to his throat. Dad! Yeah. Kagari spun around him, using Itaru's huge body as a shield. Suzuha staggered toward him, gritting her teeth. Let's go, Kagari. Lay one finger on Dad, and I don't care who you are, Kagari. I'll kill you. Kagura remained silent as she headed outside the door with her hostage. And then in the next moment, she shoved him forward. Taru lost his balance and fell toward Suzuha. Suzuha fell to the ground underneath his weight. Taru just barely managed to support himself with his arms and legs to keep from crushing her. Move! Suzuha tried to shove him off using a little more force than she may have intended, but Ataru was so huge it would take him a moment to get up. That's why I told you to lose weight. What? He was getting away. He somehow managed to crawl out from under him and quickly tried to follow after Kagura. Suzuha, wear this! Ataru was still lying on the ground as he tossed the naked Suzuha her shirt. She grabbed it and quickly put it on, then ran outside. When she looked around the street, the girl in the motorcycle leathers wasn't there. There's no way to even know where she'd gone. Got away. It'd be dangerous to run around trying to find her now. There was a chance Ataru would be attacked while she was at the lab. What was that, Kaguri-san? Ataru came outside as well. Yeah, I'm almost certain. See. This is how it's going to be with the two of us in the end. Bruises and wounds were bad enough, but the pain that ached in her heart was the worst of all. No, I really did like her. Yeah. She was small, but so brave. She always did her best to protect Big Sis Maya. Taught her a lot. Thought of her as like a little sister. Yeah. Now she's my enemy. Taru straightened up his shirt sleeves. You know, you look like a slutty girl in an H game right now, Suzuha. Huh? What? Suzuha was caught completely off guard. True, her t-shirt only came down to just below her hips, roughly the length of a miniskirt. Her breasts were almost completely bared. The shirt's hem was trimmed up, and she felt exposed. Well, I don't mind H games with slutty girls, and I don't think the whole naked except for a t-shirt thing is all that bad. Feeling silly again. You could have gotten badly hurt. But Ataru shook his head. I freaked out by the knife. I don't think I really needed to be that scared. Unless I'm mistaken. Ataru ripped the part of his neck where the knife blade was. He had the knife to my throat. I could hear it just a little. Or what? Probably crying. Huh? Crying? After that helmet? After the whole battle with Suzuha? While holding a knife to Ataru's neck? Why? So don't you think it's too early to jump to conclusions? Dad. You buy me that vanilla ice cream? Yeah, of course. I love to eat it. I'm a little tired. Then she almost fell forward. Nara managed to catch her before she hit the ground. Hey, Suzuha. I'm fine, but let me rest a little. Was all she had the energy to say. She closed her eyes in her dad's arms and her consciousness melted away. All right. I think that's a good place to end tonight. My voice starting to give out on me. There's only so much I can go before I just turn into Peppermint Patty. But excuse me. Today's Valentine's Day, so happy Valentine's Day, everyone in the stream. I will be finishing this game later today. Sometime this afternoon. I'm close. Probably 6 or so hours away, so one more stream should definitely do it. We'll see what happens. There's been some slight changes but things are still progressing towards the bad timeline. So anything can happen. Still trying to see with Leskinen. Bad things from what he just did in the worst possible timeline ever. But I'm intrigued. Kagiri, we're still gonna run into her, I guess, on the streets. There's still gonna be a war, the time machine. A lot of things are gonna go down. I'm interested to see how they play out and if there's any differences. Exactly how is this gonna end? So, stay tuned for that. I'm assuming I'm probably gonna stream probably 12:30 Pacific Standard Time. So look forward to that. This has been an entire week of Steins Gate Zero. Loving it so much. So many just twists and turns. That's so incredible. Completely lives up to the first game. It's like right on its level. I'm so glad. I was having my biggest concern was if this game wasn't good, or this novel wasn't good, but it is. But yeah, on that note, shoutouts, Death Belows, Yenboy, Sancheezy, Absent Cell, Elder Chili, Frollo, Cheeto, who else am I thinking of? Sure, I got everyone. Scrubbing the chat really quick. Okay, I think I got everyone. There's a bunch of people here watching tonight. I really appreciate it. The story has been so good. I'm excited and a little bit it's bittersweet. We're finally here. We're gonna beat it today for Valentine's Day, and then it ends, and then it's like, damn, we finished it. So bittersweet. I'm looking forward to it though. I hope the ending is as epic as the first Steins Gate. If they can even pull that off. But so far everything else has been, you know, off the charts in my opinion. But yeah, so we reached Steins Gate. You have to find out next stream. Again, probably around 12:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. We beat this. We'll find out what happens. So yeah, I just want to say, everyone, thank you again for everyone hanging out. I really appreciate you guys listening to me read. I know these aren't the most exciting streams, but I try my best. I get interjections every once in a while. We have little conversations, topics. I try to keep things interesting. So thank you all again for hanging out with me and keeping the chat lively. It's been really fun reading this. As I always say, everyone's viewership and support never goes unnoticed or taken for granted. So thank you again, everyone, for being here. I really appreciate it. I can't tell you enough how much I do. And it's also time for what my number one mod with the dad bod, Tim Kara, calls the Truman Show outro. So to everyone still hanging out in the stream, thank you for sticking around to the end. We got so very far. I'm on my last ending. 5 out of 5. This is it. Everything that happens is set in stone. So ooh, you might want to get a comfy chair. Get relaxed. Grab some snacks, because the next time I read, we finish this thing once and for all. But yeah, I just want to say to everyone watching, no matter where you're watching from, I want to wish you all a good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. I'm Ego the Visual Culturist. Signing off. Gonna get some rest. Because in a little while from now, we finish Steins Gate 0. So, yeah. Take care, everyone. Hopefully I'll catch you all for the next stream. That's gonna be a doozy for sure. So, until then, I'm gonna get some rest. Take care, everyone. Good night.